We are going to talk today about how to turn your video gaming skills into a career in hacking or cybersecurity. It's going to be mostly stories, anecdotes. We're going to talk about soft skills, hard skills. Should be a lot of fun. To give a little bit of the reason of why any of us are up here, I am your host for the day, arguably the least important person here. My name is Sean. On the internet, I go by Understudy77. I am the Director of Forensics and Incident Response at Yahoo. Pretty much all of us here are at Yahoo. We stop bad guys. A little bit about like how video games got me into this industry in the first place. I'm gonna go way back for any of the older folks in the room, or at least like middle-aged folks in the room. Mega Man Battle Network. That game was my jam. And I spent my childhood busting viruses in Mega Man Battle Network, and now I bust viruses every day in real life. And it's fucking wonderful, and I love it. I'm gonna continue down the line. Pinguino, go ahead.
So hi, I'm Pinguino. I found the hacker scene through BBSs, which is how computers used to talk to each other before the internet existed. And there were online games you could play via text. The BBSs had really cool pixel art, and so I kind of fell into that early digital art scene, and now I do artwork for hackers.
Anj. Hi, I'm Anj. I'm a security engineer at Yahoo. I got into cybersecurity because I was playing Overwatch back in 2016 during the launch. It got DDoSed, and I looked up what is a DDoS.
Nathaniel?
All right, so I'm Nathaniel Davis. I'm a senior security engineer at Yahoo. I do threat investigations. And going back to some of the early days, like Pinguino, how many people ever played on a MUD on Telnet? Oh, good. We have a couple of old people in here. Fantastic. I love it. So I started off there and actually learned a lot of my skill set from those early days. So command line, actual text-based games, working through a lot of those things. And one of the first things that got me interested in this is I was talking trash to some people online, and somebody came back and said, hey, you're connected from this particular network in this city, in this state. And I went, oh, shit. And so after that, I started digging in a little bit, and it just kind of grew from there.
Then lastly, we have Shane, who, by the way, came all the way from Ireland to talk to you today, which is incredible.
You missed Alan.
Oh, sorry, Alan. I can't see. Alan first.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Alan.
That mic is off. You got to share one.
All right.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Alan. I guess I initially got into security through Splinter Cell. You could use that to soft mod the original Xbox. And from there, it went into a multitude of different things that now have me as the lead technical triage engineer for our bug bounty program, which is a gamified vulnerability disclosure model for anyone that can come in and submit vulnerabilities against Yahoo and get a bounty of money if it's valid.
Basically, we pay people when they try to break our shit. It's kind of cool. All right, now Shane, all the way from Ireland.
Yes, I am from Ireland. Hello. So, gaming for me started when I was younger. I used to watch my father playing Tomb Raider 1 on the PlayStation 1 back in the day. So that was how I started gaming. So like up until I think it was Tomb Raider Revelations, the movement was directional with the D-pad, and then when it switched to analog, my dad gave up gaming because he couldn't handle the change of switching to an analog stick. So, like, I mean, growing up from that, I was into, like, probably my biggest addiction was RuneScape growing up, and then moving on to, like, Xbox and stuff. And how I got from gaming into cybersecurity is I did my bachelor's degree in games development, and my final year project was open to the internet, and it was hacked, like, the week before it was due. So that's really cool and fun. So I had to learn how to, fix the problem and make it a core component to the project. But yeah, that's me, Shane from Ireland. Hello.
Excellent. So let's dive in then. And really, we're going to kind of start the topic of focus is soft skills, because one of the things that we talk to a lot about people when they're first coming into security is the skills that they have that they don't know are actually skills that will help them with their job. So Nathaniel, would you like to kick it off, share some soft skills around security and how you found those to be helpful?
Okay, yeah, I can certainly do that. So how many people are RPG players in the group, in the crowd? All right.
That's a lot.
Yes, yes. All right. How many are completionists? You must find every chest, explore every portion of the map. All right, good number of people. So, when you're doing an investigation and you're actually looking into what happened during an event and you're trying to understand all of it, that completionist mentality actually serves you very well because you are interested in the puzzle, you're trying to find the thing, and you want to know what happened, why it happened, how it happened, and when it happened. And so that mentality is one of those soft skills that a lot of people don't think about being translated over into this sort of career, because it is sometimes it has to be very methodical. But you're also going to be looking at expose all of these things, understand all of this information, and then come together with a full picture, basically discover the map, show off what that map actually looks like, and then be able to tell people, hey, this is what I found, this is what it looks like, here you go. And so it's an easy one to start off with because it's directly relatable to things that you already do.
Not to mention, if you have like the drive, the desire, and like the work ethic to finish everything in a game that's like a huge pain in the ass, like that's somebody that I wouldn't mind having like running investigations, because it takes a lot of drive and a lot of focus to be able to do that. Moving on, Pinguino.
Okay, so with anything in the hacker scene, thinking outside the box is a common thread I see just within all of my friends. They're people that think a little differently. They're willing to break rules to make stuff happen, and that is probably the thing that that binds together everyone culturally in that world. Also, I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine who he basically ran raids for like WoW, and like to do that, it's basically the same thing as project management in any corporate career or like any piece of software you're making, where you're dealing with people that live in different time zones, and you have to get them all to focus on their jobs together and make them all show up in one place at the same time. That's not an easy thing to do, and that's basically what a project manager does. And so if you're able to do that, you're able to take the same skills and apply it to like most corporate careers.
We actually have a lawyer who shall remain nameless, who cut a lot of her teeth on being a cybersecurity lawyer by working at MagFest and being, I know, I love you. I said name, you've named yourself now, so that's on you.
No, my name isn't Yusuf, your name is Yusuf.
Yeah, that's fair too. So it's amazing how like that tertiary experience really kind of leans into how you can kind of talk to folks like us on stage or interact in any different way. I'm gonna keep going on down, and I'm gonna pick on Anj now.
Oh, you're full.
All right, who here plays competitive games like League of Legends, maybe Overwatch? Cool. So I'm sure in those games, when you play ranked, you've experienced where you really want to get to that next division, or you want to get to that next rank. And these games are, your heart rate's going up, and you're like, how can I win this game? A similar thing happens when you're dealing with cybersecurity. We get really big, annoying, hard to understand vulnerabilities. You need to be able sometimes to be on a meeting for multiple hours and try to figure out what's going on. You need to be able to even try to find, which software are we running that's vulnerable? What can we do to remediate this and fix it? Having that ability to be calm in a situation that's very stressful was probably one of the most important skill sets when you're dealing in a cybersecurity career. So if you're really good at dealing with a lot of annoyance and bullshit when you're playing competitive gaming, I guarantee you'll be able to do cybersecurity.
So one of the best examples of that, by the way, is my team's name. Like the team that I run, their name, Forensics and Incident Response. That's what we tell people externally. Internally, we're the fire team. And it absolutely fits in every sense of the word. Like, we get called on everyone's worst day, and like, that is what we do. Like, we have to maintain calm and help people through those issues. There's another piece to kind of the quick-paced and like fast-paced game. Nathaniel, do you want to dive into like?
Oh, yes, and I was actually I was going to bring that up, and thank you for coming that direction. So, with these quick reaction games, decision time, and so making a split-second or a snap decision, so being able to do that, to trust yourself enough to decide, yes, I'm going to go this way, even if it is wrong. You made a decision, you are going down a path. And so being able to make that decision, commit to it, execute, is one of those things that is critical, especially when you're in one of these incidents that is a very fast-moving, fast-changing place. So you have to be able to react, respond, move in a direction, and then be able to reevaluate, go, okay, that worked. This is what specifically worked. This little bit did not. Let's cut that out. Let's go with this other direction and then proceed onwards. Because when you have one of these fast-moving breaches, you don't know exactly where they're going to go, what's going to happen next, but time is very, very critical. When you get into some of these larger scale incidents, you're looking at very large loss of revenue and income based off of seconds of downtime instead of longer time frames. I'm trying to remember a specific number, but they're like when, say, AWS East, so the major Amazon Web Services server farm here on the East Coast, when that goes down, you're looking at millions of dollars lost a second. So that's the sort of thing where you have to trust yourself, make your decision, move, and then keep working to try and recover and restore everything.
So I want to stay on this trend, by the way, of online competitive gaming for a minute, because it's a really good trend for us to be on. Another big part of what we do is this concept of understanding our adversary, because we have to make decisions, and the more we know about the adversary, the better off we are. And I'm going to toss it to our man Shane over there. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when it comes to understanding your adversary, there's a number of like soft skills you can take and bring that into any career in cybersecurity. So like, if you're playing any game, so I want to do this, who here plays games?
I mean, we are at a music and gaming.
That was fun, I just wanted to do that. But like, if you're playing a game, let's say a game I love is any FromSoft game, there's something which I'll talk about later, which is the passion to actually play the game. But when you're like fighting a boss and you're learning different mechanics on how to beat the boss, you're employing critical thinking skills where it's like you're learning patterns and you're learning how to actually come back and do it, so your brain recognizes these patterns. And the same is like true for any job in cybersecurity, whether it's like, you know, incident response or insider threat. You want to recognize patterns. So when it comes to understanding your adversary, you can bring yourself to like look at the patterns and take these patterns and how you can apply them to make repeated attempts at the adversary. So like, it's, as I said, it's the same in cybersecurity. You want to just, it's constant analysis of your adversary and just trying to understand best how to go forward with it.
Well, you know how like you're playing Super Smash Brothers with your friend and you know that this is where they play and this is the move they make, or you're playing like a first-person shooter and that one friend always sits in that one tower right there. That's basically what we do from an attacker understanding perspective. We learn different attacker groups and we learn this attacker tends to typically almost always do these things. So when we see the precursors of that behavior, somebody running up the stairs to go to the tower, we can then make the call, okay, so they're going to the tower, what do we need to do next? If they go to the tower, we know they're, grenade, boom. Exactly. So, Nathaniel, anything you want to keep going there?
So yeah, you'll hear it sometimes. We may use the reference TTP. So that's tactics, techniques, and procedures. And so that's actually what we will look at, and that's what he's talking about, that whole method of going towards a tower. Where, all right, well, we know that this particular adversary does these steps in this fashion, and that we have identified that this is their most likely outcome. So we see this a little bit, we can go here to intercept and then secure that and block that off and keep them from getting to their ultimate goal.
So is anybody like surprised yet that this thing that you've been doing since you were a kid that your parents told you was a waste of time can actually be valuable? Like, if we surprised anybody, I got one. I'll take one.
There's another one in the back.
I'll take two.
Fantastic.
Great. I want to move into like the MMO space a little bit and that kind of stuff. Pinguino, do you want to hit some of that?
I mean, I think it was mostly the organization, right? To really succeed in MMOs, you have to communicate with your teammates. You have to organize with people that live in different places, and it's also like a team. Like with our team, there's people from different areas. We have people that do red team, which is they basically attack internally and try to find holes in our system. But then there's the fire team that does more on the defense side, right? And everyone works together and talks to each other, and that's what makes it stronger.
Honest, keep it going with communication.
In my personal life, I do Overwatch, I do a little bit of Valorant, I do a bunch of competitive games. In these games, what's the one thing you almost always need? A shot caller. So for cybersecurity, we often need to be able to communicate between each other so that so that if you need to communicate what a vulnerability is, how it works, what's affected, you can do that clearly and concisely. So just like when you're telling your DPS to go after a certain target in Overwatch, you can also instruct your teammates on the team to go after certain vulnerabilities or go out, check certain departments for this vulnerable software. And this is a great way to convert your gaming knowledge into communicating soft skill in your cybersecurity career.
So I want to follow up on that one. So I know a number of you play MMOs, and just like you have a raid leader, we have an incident commander. They're the ones calling the shots saying, okay, we need this team to go do this. All right, this group, I need you to investigate this. Start this, and they distribute the duties so everybody actually knows what they're doing, how they're going to work, and then cooperate and collaborate as a team. We spend a lot of time on voice chat.
We do spend a lot of time on voice chat. And then we'd be remiss as we talk about soft skills if we also didn't hit, and Shane, you alluded to this earlier, so I'm going to lead to you, the creativity and passion required.
Yeah, so creativity and passion, they might sound like, they're two different soft skills, but they actually go hand in hand with each other. Like if you think about any scenario where you're in a game, if you don't have like the motivation to actually enjoy the game. So if you don't have the passion and if you don't enjoy the game, you wouldn't have the motivation to be creative. So if you come across an obstacle in any game and you hate the game, you're just going to come to this difficult obstacle. You don't have the passion for the game, so you're just going to quit it and leave it alone. So without that initial passion for the game, there's no point to even attempt creativity. The same goes for cybersecurity. If you don't have the passion, if it's not something you're interested in, you won't have the motivation to be in that creative space with it, because there's so many different things that can pop up day to day where it's a new situation. It might be a new zero-day attack or something. And if you have the motivation in your career to attack something like that, you're more suitable to be creative and come up with creative responses to go about having a solution. So I think having motivation or having passion in anything you do is important because it motivates you to having that level of creativity.
I think it motivates your teammates too.
For sure.
To an extent. If you're excited about something, your teammates are also going to be excited, and you can collaborate together better.
For sure.
Yeah, people tend to match your energy.
I will throw a counterpoint to one of those things. You're saying that if you do not have enough passion, this may not be something that you can do. But I want to say that the field is so broad that it may be, all right, I don't enjoy this aspect. I don't enjoy looking through logs or looking at that. Maybe you want to consider, well, how about instead of on the defensive side, maybe I like breaking things instead. So let me go look at that one. So it's not so much about if you don't have the passion for the whole broad thing, then it's not going to be for you. It's more along the lines of if you are interested in the space, find the thing that makes you passionate.
Exactly, and there's so many opportunities to find something because it's so broad. I mean, there's so many different. It's like a spider web of fields. There's lots you can go into with cybersecurity, but I think the main point is whatever you are going into, you want to have some level of passion for it in the first place. Otherwise, where's the motivation?
And Bunny, I see a hand up.
So I know I suck, but what else?
So, ripping off of that, what if, you said that there's a lot of different fields or pieces within cybersecurity. What if you don't feel that you're highly technical? What are the kinds of things that you can do that are slightly less technical?
So the question is, what if you don't feel that you're highly technical? What are the kinds of things that you can do that are slightly less technical? Like doing artwork for hackers.
Yeah, I feel like that's for me. I'm on a team called Behavioral Engineering, and we use psychology and design to encourage users to make better behaviors. And we do that through communications. A lot of what our focus is our employees, right? Like, we don't want Yahoo to get hacked. How can we convince them to do things like, install password managers and actually use them? And so we do an event every year called October Security Awareness Month, where we might do a gamified kind of thing where you have to do specific tasks like install the password manager, maybe install Delete Me, and then you can win a prize doing that. We do stuff like show up at industry events and throw parties to recruit people to come work for us so that we have the best talent available. And then we also do an annual security training video where we get to make super fun, goofy videos to get people really excited about security. And we do that in a way that I don't see other companies doing, and it's really fun. And it really works too. People that don't work on our team talk about those videos, and they're super excited to see them, and it's really fun.
So who's going to be in the duck work this time?
So
you can be a duck person.
Perfect. We also have project managers, we have lawyers, we have people across the wide spectrum that work tangentially or directly within the security org that aren't necessarily I won't say they're non-technical, because that's actually complete and total bullshit. Like, they're very technical people. Technical comes in many different ways. They are less hands-on keyboard console people, or they are technical in a different way than the tradition of what people say technical is. And I'm remiss, I didn't ask this when we started, but how many people actually work tangentially or within InfoSec that came out to see this? That's a pretty good number. How many people who don't want to and just don't know how to break in? Hey, we got a couple of those. Hopefully this is helpful, because we're going to move on to the hard skill stuff. And we're going to start with one of my favorite things to talk about, and that's cheating. Because I am a filthy, filthy cheater. I am old, and I have a kid, and I cheat at every video game that I play because I want the experience and I don't have time for the challenge. But it's amazing how much cheating can help you learn about the backbone of technology, especially cheating back in the old days.
Oh, yes.
Alan, would you like to start here? We have not gotten to you a lot yet.
Sure. So I guess along the same lines of modding and cheating, I started off with Splinter Cell. It allowed you to soft mod your Xbox, which would allow you to do a lot more things with the games that you have. You could basically control how you played them, what was included in them. I think one thing I did with that was you could mod Halo maps and play online with other people. That was pretty cool. So more than just even just cheating at a game to beat other players, it can expand your gaming experience in ways that weren't originally there. Aside from that, you also kind of learn how the game works, how memory is stored. I think one thing that I did back in the day was Cheat Engine or Art Money and stuff like that, and you could basically scan for values in the game that are stored in memory, change them, and then basically increase those values, change those values, give yourself unlimited money.
So did anybody back in the day use Game Genies, by the way? Game Genie users? A lot of Game Genie users? How many of you actually knew how they worked? A couple, okay. So what he's talking about, memory modification and injecting pieces, that's basically how Game Genies work on a technical level, and they're super cool. And modern day trainers basically do the same thing, but because it's a computer, it's easier to see. When I used Game Genies as a kid, I thought they were fucking magic. I was oh my god, this thing lets me cheat. It's awesome. Nathaniel, do you want to keep going here?
Sure. All right. So, how many people have played Quake? Anybody ever try to mod it or make any changes to the direct code on it? All right, we got a couple. That's how I learned to code, is actually breaking Quake. At one point in time, I made a shotgun that did 3 different of the missiles fired, and then they were homing and they would track, and it was buggy as hell, but it was great fun. And as somebody who was first getting into this, I was like, oh my god, it worked. Even though you'd sit there and you knew it messed up because you have a homing missile that's sitting there tracking over the corpse, so it doesn't know where to go. But I'm like, you know what? It worked. So even these little things, just being able to explore the code, look at the code, and I was not fully reversing it or anything along those lines. I was just finding the values that I could actually read, that's the stuff that was not in machine code, and manipulating what I could see, and just playing around with it. And so being able to be curious and look at the code, manipulate the things, see what happens, see what fails, see how it breaks, what other sort of unexpected consequences you actually introduce into the system or the game that you're working on, and is one of those things that really drove me to actually move forward and look at what you could truly do if you start with code from scratch, and then being able to build from there. So it's a very hard skill, obviously, because you have to understand the languages, you have to understand the code, and see how those things work. But being able to do the manipulations, do the mods, do the installs of the mods, understand what's happening and how. Even if you're following a walkthrough and going through those guides that somebody else has written, it still gives you exposure and experience into how these different steps are taken. And then you can easily turn that around and elevate that and go, you know what, I enjoy doing these things. Let me go build my own program. Let me start learning how to build these other things. And then you can start developing your own codes, developing your own programs, work as coders, developers, and then move into that world as well.
Modding can teach you a crazy amount about how computers function.
Oh, absolutely.
And like how programs within computers function. Sorry, did not mean to cut you off. Continue.
Oh, no worries, no worries. That was my point, is that you can take these little skills that were curious about and then grow them into these full careers.
You absolutely can. Shane, do you want to add on a little bit as we talk about like coding?
Yeah, for sure. So like, I mean, the process of scripting and coding is something that's a big part of my career in cybersecurity. I script in Python every day, but like Nathaniel, I first probably learned to code because I was cheating at something. So well, I used to play, like I said, RuneScape, and for some reason my favorite skill in that game was woodcutting, where it's just, you literally just click an object like 100,000 times and then it says level up. So the first script I built was one that just like found the pixel color of the particular log I wanted to cut down. I think it was like willow or something, and it would cut it until the inventory is full. And then from that, like, you make that first step a success. You're like, oh my god, it worked. But then you realize, oh wait, once I get all my inventory full, I have to walk to the bank. So you have to, then I built on it, and I built the script that walks to the bank and comes back, and it does it all itself. And then you kind of sit there afterwards, you're like, is this even fun anymore? But I've achieved something great. But like, that process of breaking down a problem like that is something that I use every day in work. Like, I'm working with big data, so I have to know how to like break it down into the smallest pieces. But like, the skills I learned from just being a kid in gaming and just like wanting to do like the easiest way possible, whether the game is even fun or more, I use them, like those creative thinking skills, like every day in my job as well.
So I want to pull on that a little bit with Alan, because as you play these things, how many times you play a game that's broken? How many speedrunners take advantage of exploits within a game so that they can play the game faster? Alan, you want to talk a little bit there?
Sure, yeah. So I guess one of the things you run into when you're playing a game long enough is some kind of bug or glitch. And then from there, you can think, how can I use this to my advantage? I mean, for something like the Elden Ring, like speedruns, you could like hop over this one log and like bypass a boss or whatever. So I guess just understanding how the game works and how it can be abused, like vulnerabilities, holes or whatever, you can apply that to your cybersecurity career as well, because it's basically the same thing, but just in a different environment.
Especially from the bug bounty component.
Right.
You want to talk more about that one?
Sure, yeah. So I guess along the same lines as like being a competitive like game player, esports, stuff like that, we have the same kind of thing with bug bounty, where you're competing against everyone in the world basically to find stuff before other people do. You get points on that, you move up in the leaderboards and stuff. So it's the same kind of thing where you're attacking a certain game or something like that, but in a different realm.
Cool. And then, as technologists, right? Most video gamers also probably would say they're technologists in some sense. There's a crap ton that you can learn from emerging technology, and that is like Pinguino's huge passion. So we're gonna leave that to her.
I feel like a lot of the people that are really passionate about technology are people that end up in emerging tech, which is VR, AR, XR, even crypto, Web3. It all kind of goes in there, and because all of this is so new, security is usually the last thing any of these developers are thinking about. And that's where, like, anybody that's moving in the field, you could combine those two passions and really do a lot of good and really help people.
So I believe we've established that everybody likes games, but one more. Who here likes games? Okay, cool. I just want to see everybody raise their hand again.
It's fun, right?
They're participating. It's good.
What if I told all of you that our entire industry is filled with all different kinds of games? There are so many games. Like, we have our own like conferences like MagFest that are just filled with our games.
Yeah.
We call them CTFs. Bug Bounty is a game for a lot of people. Capture the Flag is what CTF stands for. Nathaniel, would you like to kick that off and talk a little bit about this stuff?
Has anybody ever heard of Cyber Patriot? You know what that is? Oh, good. There are a few people. So Cyber Patriot was one of these things that's is trying to get cyber skills into high school, and they have a lot of these competitive CTFs that are sponsored, and so it is either securing a system or it is breaking a system. And so you'll find some of these where they are some of them are dedicated to blue team, so the hardening of systems, protecting systems, or the red team, the attackers on those systems. Sometimes you'll find that you'll have ones where you are both defending and attacking at the same time for some of the more complicated, more technical ones. And these are real, they're all over the place. There are so many different resources to be able to do these. And they start with very easy, simple challenges in some places to get. And then there are some of them where you'll have to do multi-stage pivots. So you'll actually have to compromise one location using a specific technique, move to another one, pivot off of that location to be able to plant a flag on on the final endpoint that you're trying to get. And then they have scoring metrics where and they're just ranked leaderboards. And at some of these conferences, they will start right after opening ceremonies of the conference, and they will run until about an hour before closing ceremonies, and they will go 24/7. So they will run for the entire time until that is done, trying to see who can get the most points. And they will usually give very large prizes for that.
And it's a really good way to learn and pick up some new skills as you go. Anybody want to talk a little bit more about that? Stories, experiences, fun CTFs?
I don't want to hog the mic. I can talk forever on this, but if I wanted to give everybody else an opportunity.
I just have a quick one. So when I was in college and learning more about cybersecurity, one of the ways that I gained new skills was doing beginner CTFs, and there's a lot of them that you can find. One really popular one that is CTF-like is Try Hack Me, that teaches you a lot of cybersecurity skills and the basics. But when I did that CTF, I learned really simple things like Linux command line, how to move files using the Linux command line, how to use this application called Network Mapper to find different different hosts on my network. And this was a great way to gamify learning cybersecurity, and it's a way that I recommend a lot of people get into it.
And remember, you all like games. That's why you're here.
So we have a question.
So we always, when I do this or when we do this, we want to leave an ample amount of time for questions, because we want this to be useful for all of you, and for anybody who is looking to break in, we want you to have time to get your questions answered. But what I would like to do is I would like to go down. I'm going to start at the end over with Shane, and I would like to get if you could take everything that we've talked about and dissect one piece of advice for somebody who's looking to convert their gaming skills to break into cybersecurity. What would your one piece of advice be?
I think I've stressed over and over in what I've talked about is the importance of breaking things down into the smallest, most achievable fashions. So So what I like to do in my spare time is like break technology, break it apart and put it back together again, just because I don't know what's wrong with me, but I love doing that. So it's a similar thing. So like I recommend everyone to take up like a skill, like even if it's just getting a Raspberry Pi and like learning how to script on a Raspberry Pi or
For less than $100?
well, in Ireland, yes. But those skills of like, you know, you can buy add-ons for the Raspberry Pi and stuff as well, but it gives you fun, like learning as you go with fun. And another thing as well that it's strange to recommend, but it's really good to get like your mind going is Lego. I love Lego. It helps me hone
Legos.
creative thinking skills. But like in the more cybersecurity realm, I recommend like single board computers and stuff like that to teach yourself to code, or even just like, I mean, a 10-minute video on YouTube about the basic syntax of Python, and you're like,
And
you're good to go nearly. Just like, just try and teach yourself something every day about stuff like that. That's probably my advice.
And for all of the gamers, as we talk about Raspberry Pi, there's a company called Pimeroni. They're UK based. They sell a lot of cool Raspberry Pi stuff, but one of the things that they sell is something called a Pi-Cade. It is a small 10-inch screen, single player arcade cabinet that's about this big. It's a super fun build. There are like 3 specific Raspberry Pi distros dedicated to like MAME and emulation. It's super duper fun. It's a really fun build, and it's a cool way to learn stuff. I am going to not forget Alan this time and go to him.
I guess the main thing I have to say is just realize how the current things you're doing while you're on the computer, on the console, playing games can be applied to other areas like cybersecurity. It's basically just having an understanding of how the technology works and how it can be used differently. That's basically hacking in a nutshell.
Nathaniel.
So I'm gonna go back to one of the soft skills on that one that I brought up earlier. So a lot of people get intimidated by the technical components and the individual aspects that are involved with this sort of career. But my takeaway for you would be this: if you think you can do it, if you even have the slightest interest in it, trust yourself enough to make that leap and go and find more. Dig in a little bit more and take that chance. Explore it and look into it and see if that is truly something for you. Because if you think that you can do it, or you have just that desire to look a little bit better or a little deeper into it, I believe that you will find you can go much, much further than you ever thought possible, and it will open up a whole new horizon to you, far greater than anything you had previously considered. It is such a deep space. There's so much out there. There's so much that can be done. If you look and give yourself the opportunity to try, fail, try again, and continue until you find the thing that interests you. So do not be afraid of failure. It is just an opportunity to move further.
Anj.
I think what you guys should do is what you're doing right now. You came to a panel about cybersecurity so you could learn more about it. There are a lot of local cybersecurity conferences you can go to, like your local B-Sides. You can Google what that is, but it's basically a grassroots, a small security conference that will have lots of panels like this, lots of talks like this, and often there'll be multiple talks about how to break into cybersecurity. So I would say just keep doing things like this, and it'll help you get into this career.
Pinguino.
So we all live online, and we need people to help defend the space that we're living in. And we need more like really smart, really curious, creative, good people to find this industry and come work in it. Just look at your skill set, look at the things that you love, look at the type of games that you like to play and what's interesting to you, and see if there's a match somewhere in the industry. Because it's a lot bigger and broader than a lot of people realize. And there's a lot of different things you can do, from like art to finance to project management. Even if you don't do the hardcore hacking stuff, there's a lot of opportunities there for you to just help out.
So I'm gonna echo a lot of what's kind of already been said, but I'll hit that in 2 main points. Point number 1, everyone here, everyone who's not here, everyone alive, you all have value. It may not seem like that sometimes. You may not be taught, especially in a working environment, that you don't, but like you have inherent value. That inherent value is important. I say this at like every like hiring panel that I've ever done. And the other piece of it is you have skills that transition even if you didn't know that you had them. So as you think about your resume, as you think about like, you know, even if you just write like soft skills, hard skills, like things that you're good at or things that you're not, what you do in a job is not the only way to gain a skill. And what you put on paper and how you talk can reflect the other things that you do outside of that. So it may not get you fully in the door, but it's a start. And if you have experience running raids as a project manager, like that can help you in project management, or like helping out and organizing at MagFest. Like that can be super helpful. Like there are so many things. Just pay attention to the skills that you gain from the things that you do that you love, and make sure that you account for them when you're trying to get a job. With that, it's probably safe to move on to questions. Are there a lot of questions? Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing that I did yesterday. I'm gonna grab this mic, I'm gonna go down here, and if everybody who has a question can kind of line up, that would be amazing. That way we don't have to repeat them. I have less room than I did yesterday. Hello.
Hello. So first off, not to get anybody to divulge anything here that they're not willing to do so. At MagFest, obviously, we have this big Venn diagram of both people who love music and people who love gaming. I was thinking during the panel of 3 musicians who I heard talking yesterday about wrestling with ADHD and how they use that with their musicianship and composition. I've heard cybersecurity described as kind of like the perfect playground for ADHD, incident response in particular. So, I mean, could you speak at all to like people who are neurodivergent and opportunities in cybersecurity for those people?
So first off, I am super ADHD, and I do incident response. It's great. In my household, we talk about ADHD in a specific way. To me, to my daughter, ADHD is our superpower. It is what lets us see the world in different ways and approach things in different ways. And I will say of everything that I've been part of, cybersecurity integrates so well with like nerd geek culture, video gaming culture, and all of that. But it is super neurodiverse friendly.
Oh, yes.
And often super mental health friendly if you get into the right place, which is really good for people who are relatively neurodiverse. Neurodiverse people tend to see the world differently, which means they tend to solve problems more, not intelligently, but more creatively, oftentimes. And creativity is what makes people in cybersecurity really good, because we're up against real adversaries, real other people. So like that creativity is beneficial. Anybody want to?
Also the hyperfixation too.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Oh, did you want to speak on that one?
Yeah, just add one more thing on, like, if you have ADHD and you're in the cybersecurity realm, you'll always find something new to do.
That also true, yeah. Here you go, sir.
So, as someone who's interested in the cybersecurity space but strongly dislikes writing code, is there sort of a prosperous career path for that kind of person?
I don't write
How you
code.
doing?
Well,
Does anybody here code?
I do like
Oh, wow,
SQL.
okay.
I don't code.
I guess I need to shift my perspective a bit.
So I'll actually speak on that one a little bit. So I have a coding background, but the work that I do right now is I do not code. I actually I review logs, I review activity, and so my code base understanding lets me see how the machines interact with each other. So I have that as a foundational background, but a lot of what I do is based on understanding those relationships, how data moves, how data flows, and seeing this happened here, okay, we're gonna follow this path. So I have the understanding in the background, but I do not write code on a daily basis.
That's good.
Coding is not a requirement. I'll say it again, coding is not a requirement. I'm gonna try to get a little bit more space for this microphone here. Okay, thank you.
So the last question kind of answered a little bit of what I was asking, but I'm currently trying to pursue computer science as a bachelor's. I was wondering if there's anything I should study or look towards when it comes to cybersecurity.
I mean, we've all got answers, so I'm just
So,
waiting for who else to speak up first.
I'll speak from my experience. When I went to college, I originally was trying to do computer science. Then I learned that there's a bunch of math that I don't want to do, so I did cybersecurity.
physics right now.
So, as far as getting to cybersecurity through computer science, understanding how to secure your own code will take you a very long way. And there are a lot of jobs at the major companies that want that skill set. It's called application security.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go.
How do you break past having 0 certifications and 0 years of experience?
All right, anybody else want to take this one, or I'll dive in?
I think you go.
Okay. 0 certifications, 0 years of experience. Tell me about your skill set. So be able to articulate what you know, some of the stuff we were talking about here, because you don't need it. You do not have to have a degree to do a lot of this work. You do not have to have certifications to be able to do this work. You need to be able to demonstrate a skill set, and that skill set can easily be learned online. And so if you have that portfolio of work, or you can say, hey, I've competed in these competitions, I've placed here, I've done these little aspects, being able to bring that information and present that to people will get you beyond that certification aspect or that job history in that space.
If it's helpful, I have 0 certifications and an associate's degree.
I just wanted to add on, I have the things that you don't have, but what you can do now, if you don't have them, you can do CTFs, try Hack Me, Hack the Box. Lots of good ways to learn for free. And if you do the CTFs and you start like going regularly, you will have the skill set that you want.
Good.
It's a really good networking opportunity too to do CTFs, because people will see how your brain works, how you're solving, and if you do something that really stands out, people will notice.
So I actually have a good story here that's directly related to your question. There was an individual who jumped into an InfoSec community that I helped run once upon a time. He was just getting into the industry, mid-40s, making a career change, right? No college degree, no experience, no certifications, no nothing. Spent a year just doing CTF, search, stuff like that. I gave him a mock interview, he got his first job. A year later, I gave him another mock interview, or I gave him a real interview and hired him. So none of the normal background that you think. You just need to find a place that's accepting of that. And it's that will find a place that will let you bring what you want to the table.
So one thing that Anj mentioned earlier was finding local security conferences. Security B-Sides is one of the ones I help run the one here in the DC area. But almost every major metropolitan area has a security B-Sides now. It's become that sort of broad. And those are specifically catered towards being approachable. Most of them will the entry fee will be less than $30, and usually you'll get a t-shirt out of the deal in the process. So you're really just covering the space, because sponsors will pay for a lot of that. And that's a great location for you to get some of these skills, understand some of what's happening, attend talks presented by people to see what technology is, the state of the industry, where the technology is going. But to Pinguino's part, it's also a great opportunity to network, because a lot of times having that understanding in those people and meeting those people, then you can actually get those connections and go, hey, I'm interested in this. Do you know anybody? And yes, usually the answer will be yes. Here, let me introduce you to a new person. So you just need that little bit of interaction, and then you can grow from there.
Also, all of those events always need volunteers too. So after you've been going for a little bit, you're used to the event, sign up to help with registration or line control or things like that anybody can do.
Networking helps a lot. Thank you. Next up.
I think that's a perfect question to lead into my own. So how do you know, at what point are you sure that you're qualified enough to actually do this with real data on real networks? Because as we talked about earlier, there's...
I will answer that one, because I don't feel I'm qualified still. And I've been doing this for 10 years.
Okay.
I can also attest to that. So I've been with Yahoo for 4 or 5 months, but even going back to the previous question, I was in games development, and I didn't know I was going to do cybersecurity, and I had to make a big change to it. And I only really started doing cybersecurity after, I did my master's in cybersecurity, but I still imposter syndrome is real in no matter where you go. I can definitely, that's like, it's something I think everyone deals with at some stage, but if you're surrounded by the right people who can, support you, which I found in this career as well, it helps to ease that kind of feeling of that imposter syndrome.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, but also apply anyway. Honestly, always apply.
For sure.
Please apply.
Yes.
Not enough, there's so many people who look at a job rec and go, I don't meet every one of those requirements, I'm not going to apply for that job. No, apply for the job. You have nothing to lose applying for a job, ever. If nothing else, you go through an interview process or your resume isn't good enough and you learn something out of it, and then you can kind of continue to get better. Always apply, because none of us are ever going to feel qualified. Anybody who comes into the industry probably also won't feel qualified, but it's cool. We still do the job. It's fun.
Sean, can I add something?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when I first started, Paranoids reached out to me. I was in journalism, and I was doing a lot of just illustration for a security magazine, but I didn't think that skill set was something that applied to what they needed. But they knew what they needed, and they saw that in me and reached out. So yeah, just apply anyways, because you don't really know what they actually need. They'll know that, and the interview will tell you if you're a good fit or not.
And sometimes you may apply for a job and do the interview, and they'll be like, you know what, you're not a fit for this position. But how about I introduce you to this person over here, because you sound like you're perfect for what they need.
Yeah.
So that's that whole aspect I was talking about, trust yourself. And so even though that voice is screaming at you, you can't do this, take the step, because you may find out you just can't.
That's how I got my job. I applied for something else and I ended up doing this.
Same here. And now I'm an Irish lad in Washington, D.C. talking to a panel, so always apply.
Next up, I love the costume.
Very nice.
Does having a background in working with mechanical or electrical components help with getting into InfoSec? I have a degree in mechanical engineering, and I'm looking to transition to a cybersecurity career.
I think, of course. I mean, the skills you have from just engineering in general, those analytical skills of breaking things apart, like I said, you can transfer those skills into, they're kind of, industry agnostic, whereas you can take those skills anywhere, especially into cybersecurity. So I would say yes, anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
There's hardware security too,
Oh,
right?
yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially, that's a good one, with the electrical engineering aspects, the hardware security, the actual physical components, and being able to do that sort of information and dump firmware off of a piece of hardware and be able to reverse engineer that's a skill that is very much in demand.
Yeah, that's like an entire whole, its own industry.
It really is.
Well, Intel has their own entire bug bounty program built around hacking the processor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here you go.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. Love your hat.
Thank you. Can I ask 2 questions?
I think how many people we got in the line? Yes.
Okay, question number 1. You guys were talking about CTFs a little while ago. Yes. So as an individual, without going to a conference, just so you can get it in as a puzzle or practice thing, what can you do? Is there a website you can go to or anything like that?
There's Pico CTF.
Yep, that too.
Good way to learn. Try Hack Me. Those 2, I would just do those 2. Hack the box, yeah.
Could I potentially see one of you guys just to get that written down, just so I can remember it?
We'll speak afterwards.
Okay.
Yes.
Second question. I'm currently a CS student at GMU, and I want to finish my degree, but is there something I can do that'll get me paid and get some experience on the belt at the same time?
Internships.
Internships pay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we have a bunch of paid interns every year.
Yeah, who has internships listed right now?
I did 3 internships when I was in college. That's what you need to do.
Is there anything I can do with you guys right now, or is that?
The opportunities are currently listed on the website, and you can certainly apply.
Okay, I appreciate it.
It's at theparanoids.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question.
What's going on, guys? So I'm a graphic design major, and I'm about a year into switching to CS and learning, self-learning, CTFs, listening to CyberWire every morning. So before I was doing a lot of UX UI design stuff, and I kind of don't want to let that knowledge go. I was wondering if there's a correlation in UX UI and in cybersecurity.
Yeah, we definitely do websites all the time for internal projects. So yeah, you can still use those skills.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much. Next up.
So you've been talking about penetration testing, but you haven't gone into any of the legal pitfalls with that yet. I just thought it would be good for the audience to know what they should do to protect themselves so they don't run afoul of the law.
So that's kind of why we have Bug Bounty. That's how Bug Bounty came to be, basically. So instead of like not really having a way for people to go hack companies and report it, it was really not that great in the past. Now companies are starting to do this Bug Bounty thing where anyone can come in, report the vulnerability they found. There's like legal clauses where you won't get into trouble as long as you're not like deleting or like dumping all the data. Yeah, Bug Bounty is the way to go.
So basically, you find a company that you're interested in, you see if they have a bug bounty program, you read the terms of their program, you can hack this, you can do these things, and then you can go hack it and then get paid when you find stuff.
Just want to say thank you for hosting this panel. Appreciate it. Thank you. So I guess like a question that I have is, so currently I am a computer technology graduate, graduated back in the spring, and I currently haven't found a job yet. I was wondering, should I keep looking for full-time positions? Should I do an internship, or should I go back to school for a graduate school?
I don't think you should, excuse me, I don't think you should go back for a master's. I think you should focus on internships, increasing your skills with something like CTFs or TryHackMe. And this is what I personally did. I got like the Security Plus, I got those basic cybersecurity certifications, so my resume would look better. That's what I would recommend.
Also, just looking at your resume can go a long way. Like if you're not getting calls, resume, if you're not doing well in interviews, interview preps, mock interviews, and figuring out what type of jobs that you want to go for. If you want to hang out a minute afterward, we can totally talk about it.
A good way to do that is to go to B-Sides, because often they have resume review and mock interviews.
They totally do, yeah.
Yeah, there's a group called Raise Me that does that.
Hey, I think my question is about like data visualization and cybersecurity. So like games, they show you a problem in like a very visual, spatial, like even sound. So that's how we go about solving it. And most of what I've seen in cybersecurity is just like a lot of logs, right? And like some graphs here and there. Is there like any tools that are being made or any jobs that are kind of like tackling showing that data in like a more visual way?
Oh, yes.
That's such a cool question.
It's a fantastic question, and it's great. All right, so anybody want to talk about it? You want me to?
You can start.
So you're talking about a good way like for visualization and things on those aspects. So yes, we've mentioned a lot of the aspects about logs, but there are tools like Splunk or like ElkStack and some of these others that do have visualization capabilities. And then you can build out dashboards that can view it, and you create these searches so that it will, so instead of you looking through the logs and digging into that information, it will search through it for you and then present that information in a fashion that is actually very much human readable, that's quickly digested, and then you can move on from there.
And if you're the person making those dashboards, you could spin up your own startup and make a tool that everyone uses.
Yeah, we use log aggregation like visualization constantly because it helps like see how you're going to look at data.
Oh, yes.
A big part of my current job in vulnerability management is visualizing the data that I found. So,
okay.
All right, we got like 2 minutes and 2 more questions.
This one's going to be like a one-liner. Have you guys all played the game Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes?
Yes. I have not, but I've heard good things.
Played it once.
So yeah, that's my takeaway. Maybe think about like, are there specific games that you would say best encapsulate what you do in cybersecurity? Maybe that's another panel some other time.
That might be another panel.
Yeah, that's another panel. But I will say the highlight of my MagFest gaming experience has been Deathball.
Oh, yeah.
Deathball. Everyone should play Deathball.
Our favorite.
Yeah.
So what was the most interesting vulnerability that each of you have encountered in your experience?
Oh, goodness. Most interesting vulnerability. Yeah, we need a while on that one. That might actually be a question to discuss after we get off the stage.
Okay,
that'll take time.
First off, for everybody who came out, thank you all so much. We appreciate you. We hope you're having a great MagFest. If I can get a big round for these smart people up here who talk, that would be great. And I hope everybody else has a fantastic rest of their MagFest. So take care, everybody. What?
Come up if you want stickers.
Oh, yeah, rate the panel on the app thing if you dug this, and maybe they'll let us come back next year and do another one. Maybe about what game most encapsulates our cybersecurity careers.
That would be a fantastic talk, absolutely.